Are you ready to take control of your nutrition and physical well-being? Today I'm going to talk about the Whole30, which is a revolutionary nutrition program that has helped hundreds of thousands of people over the last few years take control of their life and achieve food freedom. The Whole30 is a nutritional program designed to remove foods that typically have a negative effect on the human body, specifically the digestive system, immune system, cravings, and the metabolism. The 30 indicates the length of the program, which is 30 days. I've personally done 3 full rounds, and I'm on day 27 of my 4th round of the Whole30 right now. Also, one of my previous rounds was 60 days long. The first thing I want to do is go over a quick overview of the Whole30 and what it entails. Second, I'll go over some of my personal struggles with the Whole30 and things that I had to conquer in order to succeed. The third thing I want to do is hit on some Reddit posts that I've read that I think provide some insight and maybe some motivation for those of you that are currently on the Whole30 or that are thinking about doing the Whole30 soon. If you're new here, I post about 5 to 6 days a week on subjects such as leadership, relationship development, and health and well-being, such as this video. If you're interested in those kinds of topics, please consider subscribing so that you can see more of these videos. First, a quick overview of the rules of the Whole30. Keep in mind this is not an exhaustive list, so before you start the Whole30, you should definitely go read one of the books on the subject, or at least go to the website and review the rules list. There are 8 rules on the Whole30. The first and the hardest for me is sugar. You cannot have any sugar at all and no artificial sweeteners. That means no honey, no agave, no maple syrup, none of that. You're cutting out all sugars. The second is no alcohol. You cannot have beer, wine, you can't even cook with alcohol. Also, no grains or derivatives from grains, no dairy or dairy products, no legumes. You also have to stay away from MSG and added sulfites. So the last 2 rules are not food restrictions so much as habit restrictions. First one is you cannot recreate junk food or baked goods with Whole30 approved ingredients. So this is a major separation from paleo, where you can find websites just packed full of paleo approved brownies and cookies and cakes. None of that is allowed on the Whole30. You cannot recreate your favorite foods using Whole30 ingredients. That would go against the idea of replacing habits. And the final rule is no scale. So they do encourage you to weigh and take your measurements at the beginning of the program and at the end, but they do not want you doing that during the program. Now let's talk about my past Whole30s and my experience from those Whole30s. There are 3 main things I have struggled with on this program. The first and worst for me is sugar. I have a major sugar addiction, and I'm consuming sugar just about every day when I'm not on the Whole30. Soda is a major problem for me. I eat donuts in the office. I'm eating candy pretty regularly. It's pretty bad. So when I start the Whole30, I'm actually fighting sugar cravings for about the first half of the program. And it's very important for me to identify the difference between hunger and a craving. The second thing I struggle with is alcohol. I really like to have a beer after work. Usually 2 to 3 days a week I'm having a beer after work, and on the weekends I'm having drinks with friends or family. I really enjoy that. I'm also a home brewer, so I have cases of beer sitting around just waiting to be enjoyed. It's a major struggle for me, which is another reason that the Whole30 is good for me, because it helps me break those habits. The third challenge for me is cooking time. So I'm lucky, my wife really likes to cook. Most of the time she handles all of the cooking, but on the Whole30 she can get overwhelmed because there is a lot of time spent in the kitchen. Cooking with whole foods is just a whole nother level of work. The other thing is, on our first Whole30, and I think our second Whole30 as well, we exclusively used the Whole30 cookbook, which is good starting out because it teaches you the things that you're allowed to have and how to work with the available ingredients. But what we discovered was we were really restricting our options. So on the third Whole30, and now this one especially, my wife has found other sources where she's getting recipes. So she's looking at paleo cookbooks and making sure that none of those additional ingredients are in there. She's going to blogs and getting recipes. She's really branching out, which is allowing us to find recipes that are specifically easy to make and stay away from those recipes that are going to take hours to prepare. We've found a lot of recipes on the Whole30 that we really enjoy, and we've incorporated into our diet outside of the Whole30. I probably have a list of 10 or 15 recipes that we really loved. I might actually make a separate video on that. Let me know in the comments below if you'd be interested in that, and I'll throw a video together sharing some of those recipes. Now I'd like to read some Reddit posts and give you my perspective on these things. I found a few that I think might be motivational or informative for people that are thinking about getting into the Whole30 or having struggles during the Whole30. Henson01 says, "I'm worried about not eating enough even though I'm eating until I'm satisfied." So this is something that I've actually encountered on the Whole30. In my second Whole30, my appetite dropped dramatically. I was eating tiny portions and staying satisfied for most of the day. I would eat breakfast at like 6:30 in the morning, and I would forget to eat lunch until like 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And I'd look at the clock and think, oh my gosh, I need to eat my lunch before I go home. On that Whole30, I ended up losing about 16 pounds. I think I started at about 195 and I dropped to about 179. I'm 6'1", so that's pretty significant. I was pretty lean at the end of that Whole30, but I felt good the entire time. My energy levels were even and I never got hungry. So my response would be, if you're not getting hungry, then don't really worry about it. Don't worry about portion control. Don't worry about eating more or eating less. The Whole30 isn't about portion control. It's about eating nutritionally dense foods until you're satiated. So I'm not a doctor. I can't give official medical advice on this, but I would say that your body has a very efficient mechanism for telling you when you need food. And if it's not telling you that you need food, then you should be fine. Grimacedia says, having a tough time with friends. They elaborate to say that they're having trouble when they go out with friends, watching their friends eat all the yummy foods, eating chips and queso and all this stuff, and they just have to eat their banana and apple or whatever they have. They also mention that they prefer to avoid those situations rather than having to be Whole30 in a social environment. So what I'll say to that is, you don't want to avoid situations because you're on the Whole30. In fact, doing that goes against the spirit of the Whole30, which is that you want to be breaking your habits. So you want to identify your bad habits and you want to break them. And the only way to do that is to encounter those situations. If you lock yourself away for 30 days to do this program, you're not breaking those habits. As soon as you're allowed to go out with your friends again, you're going to do those same things again. Definitely get out there, learn to do the Whole30 in those environments, because those are the environments you'll be in when you come off the Whole30. The Archdill just finished their first Whole30. Congratulations. They ask, how do you stay motivated to not go back to poor eating habits and brave the Whole30 again? Well, I can tell you, since I've done 4 now, or at least in a few days I will have done 4 complete Whole30s, I'm not great at staying away from those bad habits. I do the Whole30 as a reset, to reteach myself the good habits and break the bad habits. Every time I do the Whole30, I feel like the good habits last longer before I slip back into my old way of doing things, drinking soda, drinking beer a lot, things like that. As far as staying motivated, I think this ties back to the last question, which is that when you're on the Whole30, don't avoid situations where you're tempted. Another example is every Wednesday they have donuts at work. The first time I did the Whole30, I would walk a different way to my desk so that I didn't walk past the donuts. But then it occurred to me, I'm not teaching myself to walk past the donuts. I am avoiding the donuts because I'm on the Whole30. As soon as I come off the Whole30, I'm going to walk that old path. I'm going to fall right back into my old habits. So when you're on the Whole30, you should be seeking out situations that used to tempt you so that you can teach yourself not to succumb to the temptation. So I hope that answered your questions. If you're new here, please hit the subscribe button so that you can join in more of these videos, and I'll see you tomorrow.